Hello, it's me, Layah Heilpern, and welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get notified every single time that I post. Drop a comment below so you can tell me what topics you want to hear next week, and if you enjoy the video, then just give it a like. This week, we're joined with rapper and political commentator Zuby, who's going to give us his thoughts on working from home, building your own business, being an entrepreneur, and the fear of failure. Zuby, great to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks, Layah. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Now, I wanted to invite you on today because I think so much is happening right now, and I think people are going to need to start innovating. People are going to start needing to think, how can I make a living from home? Because right now we are all stuck at home and people just don't know how long it's going to be for. You, for example, you have your own podcast, you make your own music, you have a book. So I really just want your advice. For people who are thinking, how can I make a living from home? What advice would you give them?
Wow. Okay. So the first thing I would say, and this goes beyond just making a living from home. This goes to making a living in general, and just a good way to sort of see the world is to think about what you can offer to other people. Think about what other people need, what other people want, and see if you have a skill, an ability, a talent, something that you can do, whether that's a product or a service or perhaps something that you can learn that you can offer to fulfill that demand. I mean, there are three areas beyond basic survival where, everything tends to sort of fall into, which I would say are health, wealth, and happiness. So those are three areas where there's, an infinite demand, and it doesn't matter how many people are doing something. If you look at any area, it looks like it's saturated. How many musicians exist in the world? How many authors exist? Yeah. How many podcasts? Any business. Yeah. You can do this for any service, any business. And it's weird because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, but loads of people are already doing that." And it's like, well, doesn't that go for literally everything? There's like 7.5 billion people in the world. We're not all going to have a totally unique job or career. But there's always something that you can offer to people, or just give them a different angle on it. So, for example, with myself, there's of course, everything I do started with my music. But last year I released my first book, which was a fitness book, Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. And, I still get people who are like, there's so many fitness books out there. Like, why do we need another one? And I'm like, well, the obesity rate's about, 40% or something. So, and it keeps
people are still obese. Yeah, so it's not working.
It keeps going up, right? It's not like everyone's like, oh, everyone already knows that. You can just go on the internet online. It's like, yeah, well, you can go online and find out how to get out of debt too, but that doesn't change the fact that tons of people are in debt. It's like, so, and sometimes, theoretically, it's like no new books need to be written, no new art needs to be created, no new music needs to be made. But human beings have an insatiable desire for, everything. And you might be able to reach different people than another person is able to reach. You may be able to just package the message in a way that resonates with people in a way that it doesn't for someone else. And, we're all unique and we've all got something to offer. If you, assuming somebody already has a job or a career, what you're doing, most people don't think about it this way. But what you're already doing in your job or your career is you are adding value to people's lives. You're improving people's lives in some way. So a lot of people think like, okay, how can I make money? And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I think a much better question is, how can I help people, right? Or what do people need? What can I offer to people that they value? Because if people value something, then they will pay for it. That is literally how the world works. That's how capitalism works. There's nothing that you pay for that you don't value, or there should be very little, right? I don't know. I was about to say.
Yeah, it's about like just looking at that gap in the market then, and I think it's interesting that you say, it is saturated, because I think for me personally, a lot of the time before I do something, it can be quite off-putting, can't it? If you think, well, there's already so many podcasts, there's already so many books, so many rappers, but I think it's quite an entrepreneurial thing to do, to say, do you know what, I'm just going to build my own thing. So can anyone be an entrepreneur? Because I think that word frightens people. So do you think it's something that anybody can achieve, or are some people just born that way?
I think most people who are entrepreneurs are somewhat born that way. I think everybody has I don't think it's a binary thing. I think people have different degrees of entrepreneurialism in them. Some people, might be 90% entrepreneur, 10%. I don't know what's the opposite of an entrepreneur.
An employee. An
Employee.
employee.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go.
Whereas some people, are much better in a situation where someone else is showing them what to do and it's very structured and it's very clear and, lower risk and whatever. And some people are much more attuned to that. But that same person, even if you've only got 5% entrepreneur in you, you could probably still sell a few things on eBay or, do some online tutoring or coaching,
And make that
whatever your
living
special.
from
Yeah,
home.
exactly. There's probably something that you can do there. And if you can do it to any degree, then it means that you can expand it and you can grow it. In terms of making money online, like this is something that I'm actually relatively new to. I mean, the vast majority of my career was, very much based in the real world, right? Going out there in the real world and meeting people and selling my CDs and my merchandise and doing pop-up shops all around the country and everything. It's only in the past 12 months that a lot of stuff has really shifted online for me with the podcast and the ebook and everything. So I'm still very much learning. I don't consider myself an expert, but I understand the sort of fundamentals of it. And, like I said, it really comes down to giving people what they want. And if you're looking for ideas, then
Yeah.
anytime you hear somebody say something like, oh, I wish there was, or I
Yeah.
need, or I want, or wouldn't it be cool if, they're about to give,
Then there you have it.
yeah, they're about to give you a business idea. It doesn't mean that you're the person to execute it. But anytime someone's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if such and such existed? Oh, I wish that this was different. And it's like, those are all business ideas. And so once you attune your brain to see that and to see opportunities where other people just see, challenges or roadblocks, then that's really the way entrepreneurs think.
Sure, I guess, just like you said, staying, tuning your brain so you can really find that gap in the market, find out what people really want. But I think for people, sometimes they have so many different loves and so many different joys, or sometimes they don't know what they love. And you're obviously very much into your fitness. So how did you, sort of figure out, well, I like fitness and I like politics and I like music? How do people find out what their thing is? Because I think I chat to a lot of people and people are just like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I like. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, how do people kind of zoom in on that?
It's a good question. For me, it was relatively easy. I don't love politics, by the way, but
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's okay.
No, it's okay. It's a misconception people have. I think people think I like politics way more than I actually do. So for me, it was fairly straightforward because I've been into these things since my teen years. So I already knew I loved music. I already knew I was into fitness. I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to write a fitness book. I should have done it like 10 years ago.
You do it when you're ready, right?
Yeah,
Whenever
yeah.
you're ready.
Exactly. But there for a reality check, it's not like everyone is gonna just be able to do what they like or follow their passion per se, right? Your passion is important, but firstly, you need to be good at something, right? If your passion is football or your passion is basketball, but you suck, then, you can't be a professional footballer or a professional basketball player. There's tons of people who are passionate about, sports or whatever, but they're not going to make a living from it. However, I don't know if do you really have in-depth knowledge of the sport? Maybe you could do a basketball podcast. Maybe you could do a basketball YouTube channel. Maybe there's some product you could offer to fans, which is relevant to that, which works. But, it comes back down to seeing what people actually want, seeing where the demand is, and seeing what people need. Ideally, you want to have something that overlaps with what you're good at and what you're interested in and what there's actually a market demand for. I think that's sort of the sort of holy grail. You get a lot of entrepreneurs who don't really, care. They're really focused just about making money and they don't care about whether or not they have any kind of passion for the thing. And that's fine. I'm not personally that kind of person. I don't really do anything unless I want to. That's sort of how I operate in life. I don't know.
And I agree with you.
Oh, okay,
Absolutely agree with you.
I don't know if I'll be honest, I don't know if that's great advice for most people. I think I'm a bit of an exception in that regard. But if something doesn't move me, then I'm just not interested. And I'm sure there's plenty of ways, I know there are plenty of other ways I could make money, but I care about making money in a way that I enjoy and that I actually like and that I can do long term and doesn't really feel like work. What I do feels like work sometimes, but for the most part, I'm very happy. I have a lot of autonomy. I kind of just do what I want, and I'm very.
And I think no, but I think that's the point, right? Like I think that's why people say, well, I want to work from home, or I want to, build my own business, be my own boss, so that they can be happy. So, I agree with you. What's the point in doing something which doesn't really motivate you? No, totally with you on that one. But I think there's a lot of stuff that people can do from home, but there's also some stuff that people would say, well, actually, no, I can't do this from home. So in your opinion, can you do anything from home? Do we just need to get more creative, or do you sort of have to accept, well, there are some things which can and can't be done but from home?
You can't do everything. If you work in the construction industry and you make buildings, you can't do that from home. If you're a farmer and you need to go out in a field and do stuff, then you can't do that from home. Any kind of, manual labor, that's, maybe you could build some, you could do some degree of carpentry or something like that from home. But there's a lot of stuff that you cannot do from home. And, I don't even think a future where everybody works from home would even be a good thing. I think in some people's brain, that sounds quite exciting. I think that would actually be awful. So yeah, no, not everything can be done online and shouldn't be. We do still need people in the real world to do a lot of real world face-to-face stuff. And there's no real total substitute for meeting somebody in person and actually being able to see them and communicate. What we're doing right now is great. Skype is great. Zoom is great, everything. But you're always gonna every degree of separation you move away from being face to face with another human being, you're gonna lose some nuance in the conversation, and some of the.
So they say about technology anyway, don't they? As the better technology gets, the more social media, the more detached we become. Just want to go back though, because you said that you wish you did the book 10 years ago. So have you always worked for yourself, or have you ever had a 9 to 5?
Okay. So I studied at Oxford University. I did computer science. I graduated in 2000 and wow. Man.
2000 and...
Wow, it's a while ago now. I graduated...
2000 and something. We'll leave it there.
Yeah, I graduated 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated...
I won't tell you what I was doing.
Yeah.
Too young.
I graduated 2007. So I actually worked in the corporate world. I took 1 year out and I did my music full time for 1 year. And then I worked in the corporate world from 2008 to 2011. I was actually a management consultant for a very big consulting company. And then November 2011, I left to pursue my music full time. And I've been full time, self-employed, independent since November 2011. So what I've done has grown and expanded. It used to just be purely the music. Now I'm kind of like a rapper / lots of other things. But yeah, that's how it happened.
But at that point, you have to give up a full-time salary. And I think for people, that's always one of their biggest concerns. So what advice would you give to them? It can be quite daunting. You don't know when you're going to be able to, monetize on whatever it is you're building.
You should be monetizing before you even are considering leaving any full-time employment. I mean, keep in mind that when I left my job, I'd already released 3 albums. And I already had a fan base. I'd already performed across the UK and a few different countries. So I wasn't at ground zero, right? It wouldn't be wise for me to do that. So you already want to have money coming in from whatever it is you're planning on doing. I think it's really, honestly, I think it's stupid to totally cut off one income source to jump into something with both feet where you have no idea. You haven't even tested it yet. You don't have any customers yet. You don't even know what you're doing yet. You want to build that up until it's, I don't know. I don't really want to give a number or a percentage, but maybe you want to be earning enough from your side project or side business that is, I don't know, some percentage, I don't know, 50%. Some people would even say 100% of the salary you're already making before you want to jump into that. I'd say maybe, as a random guess, I'd say maybe around 50% would probably be a pretty strong indicator that, oh, okay, like if you give this all your full-time energy, then you are confident you can make a living from that. It also depends on your life stage, right? Part of why I did that is because it was early for me, right? My early 20s. It's like, cool. I have no dependents. No, I have no children. I'm not married. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have, and like whatever. As long as I can keep myself alive and keep myself afloat, then I'm good. To be honest, I still kind of feel that way. So
good. I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Pleased to hear.
So it won't be like that forever, right? Because people go through different life stages, and the importance and priorities do have to change as their responsibilities change. And I wouldn't give the same advice to a 19-year-old who is just totally, has no strings
living with their parents.
Yeah, no strings tied to them versus someone who's like 42 and has 3 kids and is married and has a mortgage or 2, like it's a different situation. So, yeah.
It's all relative, and I think it sounds obvious, but it's not necessarily. Before you leave a full-time job, I guess even if you are 19 or 20 or whatever it is, if you leave a full-time job, I guess to build something else, make sure you have that backup, or you're able to monetize it before you leave. And it does sound obvious, but not a lot of people, I think, would think that way. And I also talk to a lot of people about creating their own content, and I find one of the biggest issues or hurdles that people come across is being concerned about what other people think about them.
Oh, yes.
And I think, that's just one of the biggest things. And you're not, okay, so you say you don't, love politics, but you are opinionated on Twitter, and you do obviously come under a lot of attack from a lot of your opinions. So, to say that in the most diplomatic way.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with caring, or I guess not caring, what people think of you?
Wow. It's a long journey. Like I said, I've been making music for over 10 years. So as a musician, as an artist, as anyone who puts stuff out there to the public, you are always going to be open to both praise and criticism, and you're never going to get one without getting the other. So from 18 onwards, I was already, just like I was building up reps in the gym and getting stronger, I was dealing with, both the positives and negatives of having people know who you are and recognize you, whether that's online or publicly or whatever, both the positive and the negative. So over time, I've built up a very, very thick skin. I mean, one thing people don't always know about my story, especially people who discovered me recently, is I used to just travel around the UK selling my CDs on the street. So I've sold over 25,000 albums, like hand to hand, face to face.
That's
so
amazing.
To sell 25,000 albums, can you imagine how many people said no, or how many people me? So when it comes to Twitter or someone, writing a mean YouTube comment, I'm like, I've already dealt with this stuff for over a decade. So there's very little anybody can say. And also, it's about, whose opinions you should even care about, right? I care about what my friends think about me. I care about what my family thinks about me. I care about what my, supporters and genuine fans think about me. Outside of that, and it's taken a while for me to reach the stage, but outside of that, I don't really care. Like, I really don't care. Like, if making 20 people hate me makes another 200 love me, then go ahead. I'll take those odds. And I don't, and I know what's in my heart. I'm not like a hateful person. I'm not some kind of radical extreme person or whatever. So it's just like, whatever, like, I'll just be me. And, however many people know you, the more people know you, the more people are going to love you, and the more people are going to hate you or think that they hate you. That's the thing. It's like a lot of these people, like, where when I do get that, it's, especially when people go with the personal attacks and things, it's like, I think they hate who they think I am. They don't actually hate me, right? It's like you've never met me. You don't know me. We've never had a conversation, whatever. You maybe just saw like one statement, literally one statement, and you tried to form an entire opinion on who I am as a human being outside of this. And, I know who I am. Like, anyone who knows me knows who I am. So I'm not and for me personally, it's easier to deal with because of my natural personality. I'm extremely low in neuroticism, which means that I'm very insensitive to negative emotion.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm in the bottom 2% of the entire population.
Oh, wow.
Of this particular.
How did you find that out, by the way?
I've done like an in-depth personality test. So
wow.
It basically means it's got its pros and its cons. I mean, generally to me, I use it very much as a pro. But it means I can find it quite difficult to empathize with certain things. So like I'm essentially like immune to depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. But that also means that I can find it very, very difficult to understand it when other people, maybe have it, or if there's a situation going on and people are like freaking out or worried or panicking, or a situation right now, for example, and I'm kind of the one who's like, yeah, it's all right, like
pretty
stuff,
chill.
yeah, stuff not like very chilled. It's not that I don't care or that I'm not like whatever. I'm just not mentally wired in that way.
Oh, wow.
So that's a factor. It's that plus the fact that I've literally had like training in, just through
rejection, basically.
Yeah, rejection, horrible comments, people just being mean to me irrationally for no reason, whatever. And and ultimately the positive is so much more. Like I do have haters, whatever, but for every hater, I legitimately have like probably 50 fans. So
that's amazing.
Again, I'll take those odds. It's just what happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I see you always post like the nice inspirational comments that you get. People saying, thank you so much for your book. It turned my life around. So, it sounds absolutely worth it. Just finally, a big topic I just quickly want to end on is the fear of failure and your comfort zone, because I think that's another main reason why people don't go and chase their dreams, essentially. So what are your thoughts on the fear of failure? How do people tackle that? And what does it mean to remain in your comfort zone? Because a lot of people say greatness cannot be achieved from your comfort zone.
Yeah. Honestly, it's actually the same question as you asked before, because the reason people fear failure is because they fear judgment and ridicule from other people. There's no greater human fear than fear of judgment from others. More people are afraid of public speaking than afraid of death. That's because people are afraid of people, they're afraid of what other people are gonna say to them or think about them or whatever. And really, you should never let a stranger, especially someone who you don't even know, or something out in the ether, control what don't ever let that stop you from doing what you're doing, right? Why should a Twitter avatar with 8 followers be able to have any control whatsoever over my life and my actions, right? It doesn't make any sense. They shouldn't. So ultimately, a good thing to do is to think of the sort of what's the worst that can happen scenario. And oftentimes the what's the worst that can happen thing is really not that big, especially in this day and age. The things people get freaked out about, public speaking, starting a YouTube channel, like doing a video, or what it's like, the worst that happens is like people don't watch it. Right. Or someone writes a mean comment, and it's like, okay, is that gonna kill you? Right. Is that gonna like physically harm you or put you at risk or something? It's like, no, it's not. So, yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. Like I do get a lot of people who like comment on my bravery, which I get, but I sort of find funny. Because I'm like, look, I'm not brave. Like I'm not in the military. I'm not getting bullets shot at me. I'm not a fireman. I'm not going into like burning buildings and lifting people out. Like I'm not.
But sometimes the climate can feel that way,
Yeah,
it's shocking.
It can, yeah. So I understand it, but at the same time, in terms of what I personally consider bravery, like true bravery, I'm like, nah, man. I'm just like talking smack on Twitter. Like that's not brave. I'm just saying what I think. I'm just being me and making jokes and whatever,
Yeah.
So that's the way I think about it. It's always about reframing.
Zuby, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on our channel today, and I think added so much value, particularly with what's going on right now with the pandemic. So thank you so much. So there you have Zuby's top tips on how to make a living doing something that you love in a way that you love. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, leave us a comment, tell us what topics you want to hear next week, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified every single time that we post.